Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, it's Korzak. Welcome to my video. In this video, this is going to be pretty much a class overview of all the human classes in the game. I'm not going to talk about the Dragonkin classes, simply because they're not accessible until level 20, and I also just personally don't really like them. They aren't bad classes, they're just not for me, and I don't know very much about them. But because this is for new players anyway, you won't be able to play them until you have at least a level 20 character on your account anyway. So I'm pretty much just going to explain the gameplay and show you some abilities. I don't have every single class in the level 60 area, but I have played all the classes to a high enough level to know what their abilities are, and I have played with other players of all these classes, so I understand what most of their strengths and weaknesses are. So all the information that you really need will be in this video for making your decision. So we are going to start off with the Savage class. This is one of the branches from Thief. So you start off somewhat slow. You're pretty much just an X attacker. So most of your attacks are going to be launching an enemy into the air and aerial frenzying them. You can use cut down to bring them back up once it gets to like level 3, and you have access to rocket punch. That's pretty much about it. So once you turn into a bandit, you'll have access to final decision and upper screwdriver. These are good abilities. So if you go up to a pack of mobs, you could pretty much throw a rocket punch at them, use final decision and upper screwdriver, and then you can use your aerial frenzy to attack them in the air. That's pretty much your gameplay until level 40, for where you then get access to Windmill, which is kind of like a dance. You're stationary until Windmill is level 3, but once it's level 3, it's a lot of fun. And then Headspin, which is also kind of like Windmill. This is a very fluent class, and you never really run out of buttons to press. The good thing about Headspin and Windmill is it also gives you armor, so you can pretty much avoid getting your animation cancelled by getting hit by an enemy. Because if you use Final Decision but get hit as soon as you use it, the ability's not actually going to go off. You won't deal damage, but it will go on cooldown. And you also get access to Cossack Dance. You basically just cast this, you'll throw the guy out, and he'll start kicking monsters in a straight line to deal some damage. And then for the Savage part of the job, all the classes are kind of the same. They get an ultimate ability, and then they get 2 abilities right here. And then every class will unlock special abilities right here, but we aren't going to talk about that right now. Alrighty, so we're going to go on over to Ninja now. Alright, so Ninja's a pretty fun class. It's the Naruto class. No, but it's a lot of fun. We already kind of went over how Thief works. So once you become an infiltrator, you get Ambush, Violent Blow, Swift Attack, and Throwing Daggers. This is a really cool ability. Ninja is also a really good class for PvP. You can kind of read through all the abilities, but like we got our Throwing Daggers, they do a lot of damage. This is our Violent Blows, and this is our Ambush. So then when we become an assassin, we have Hypnotizer, which is basically a sleep ability. A very powerful combo in PvP is to use your sleep and then throw out one of your rolling logs, and this log will also slow the enemies that it hits. You actually get a lot of opportunity to just put the enemy to sleep. You throw out your log, and then you go up to them, you do your combo. You can deal massive damage really easily, really quickly to a single target, and you still do pretty well against multiple targets. You also get a Shuriken, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. Perfect Strike is a pretty fun ability, but it doesn't really do too much damage. It kind of teleports you a short distance and deals high damage, but only one attack, really. Storm Stepping increases your movement speed. You also get to turn into a ninja. Cherry Blossom Shower and Leaf Fall aren't very useful, but Mist Vanish is very powerful, and so is Sky Penetration. Sky Penetration is kind of like the Warrior. ability. I'll show you again in a sec, except you can use this to pick up enemies however you like. You don't have to knock them into the air first. Ninja's a very powerful class. You get your ultimate ability at level 60. Crossblade, when you level this ability up a little bit, you throw out 3 ninjas who are kind of like this, and they just kind of move while doing their attacks, and it's pretty powerful ability, and it looks cool too. And you also get abilities to increase your movement speed as a ninja. So that's really all there is as an overview for ninja. They're one of my favorite classes. I really like the thief classes in this game. We're going to go over to magicians now. Alright, so we got our wizard right here, although they are technically also called sorcerer. So, as a magician, this is a very slow class in my opinion. Your beginning skill tree will be slightly different if you're a wizard or if you're going to go the route of a monk. Slow heal is basically an essential, but if you were to be the monk class, you don't really need your slow heal because you have the instant quick heals. So you can have your air combo maxed out and you can have your meteor maxed out if you really want, but it's not necessary because you get access to so many high damaging abilities. So wizard gets a mana shield. This will reduce the damage you take, but it'll consume your MP. Ice orb is a fun ability. You can throw it out and it just kind of goes on its way dealing damage to monsters. I'll show you guys a little bit too. Magician is fun. I like both of them, but it's probably the class I've played the least really. So we'll throw this out right here, and it just goes on its way dealing some damage. We'll put out our blizzard right here. This is a stationary ability that deals some good damage. And magic missile. This is kind of like the ninja throwing dagger ability, except it's with missiles. That's a really good ability. It deals a lot of damage. I don't have it unlocked on this character yet, but Snow Blues is a really good ability. The Backdraft is also a very good ability. We just kind of let this guy out. So you can really stack up the damage. Like you can have like 4 abilities going on one guy at once. This is a very powerful class. It's very fun. I like it. Snow Blues is basically you throw out a penguin. It kind of does the same thing as Backdraft, but it also sort of does the same thing as Ice Orb. Also, when you get to a certain level and you level up this ability right here, your Ice Orb will shoot out icicles, which deal damage and freeze enemies, which is fun. You get your traditional ultimate ability. You can summon a demon to kind of deal damage around you. It's a pretty solid ability as well. That's really all there is to say. You can use your X attack as well. And then also your Z attack is kind of like this, but you probably won't need it as much as you would on the monk. So we are going to go to the monk now. Alrighty, so Magician, Monk, Priest, Invoker. This is a fun class. It's very simple and very easy to play. It's the only class that can revive other party members. We aren't going to use that because it uses pretty much all the mana. So as a Magician, I like to get Air Combo 3, and I like to max out Meteor, so you can throw out 3, and this also launches enemies into the air. We are just going to go into the field quickly, so I can show you guys a little bit of this guy. Once you level up a little bit, you'll get access to, well, as a monk, you get access to Diffusion Cannon, which will let you throw out bursts of 3 X attacks. It's pretty good, but double shot is better, and you get that as soon as you turn level 40. So now I have really high attack speed, and I shoot out 2 balls for X attack. This is pretty good damage. But because of the new patch for where they added X attack resist, it kind of makes it harder to play this class. So that's when you would want to use your abilities right here like that. Or you can use your log, which is this guy right here. It's like the main damaging ability that we get. But you can also use your meteor to throw them down. You can use your air combo attack. Your meteor gets a pretty short cooldown as well, but you can also use your Z attack. I turned it off. You can also turn your Z attack off if you want to. You can do this if you want slightly faster attack speed, but it's usually better to keep this on. Okay, so now we can use our Z attack, which will deal damage to X attack resistant monsters. So the gameplay is slightly different than it used to be, but it's still pretty decent. This class also gets access to a lot of buffs. Not all of them are useful. I'll leave that up to you. I only really recommend that you use abilities that actually increase things by a percentage or by final. So this ability right here is actually pretty bad. It might look kind of cool, and as soon as you get it, use it for a couple levels, it may be useful, but the plus 100 attack is actually really not going to do very much. As soon as you get to like level 50, this ability is basically useless, because the plus 500 attack it'll give you is really not a lot. It's not worth the skill points that it takes. Quagmire is a good PvP ability, but it can be used in PvE as well. I can use this Ice Cloud attack to freeze enemies or players. I can put my log down, I can rain a fire, and then I can spam the X attack. You can also turn enemies into a frog if you like. This is a decent PvP class and a pretty good PvE class. So the appeal of this class is also that you get heals. You don't really ever need healing potions, so you can save some gold there if you like. You can just throw out an instant heal to heal you for a good chunk of your HP. You can also throw out a sanctuary. This is good in times where you're going to be stationary, but the healing is also not super high later on in the game. You also get a mana version to heal people's mana. And then as level 60, you get your traditional level 60 ability. And you get to summon like a kind of spirit that'll deal lightning damage to other enemies and stuff. So I think this class is a lot of fun. It's definitely an attack speed heavy class, and the gameplay has changed over what it used to be, but it's still very viable. Even if people like to complain about the X attack resist, you can still use your Z attack, use all your different combos here, and then you can also use the meteors to knock enemies up into the air and use your air combo. When you get really high attack speed, you can just spam like this to keep an enemy in the air until they're defeated as well. Alright, so we're going to go on to the warrior classes now. Alrighty, so we are on the Overlord right here. The Gladiator, the Myrmidon, the Overlord. This is a fun class, I like it. You're going to take different abilities if you're going to go between Paladin or Myrmidon. So for Warrior, you only really need 1 point and air combo launch. And for both classes, you only really need one ability in Cut Down, because Cut Down knocks enemies up to a decent height already. So there's no point to put skill points into it, because you have more than enough time to actually knock an enemy, or you have more than enough time to actually hit them when they're in the air, just from having it as level 1. Alright, so as a Gladiator, you get access to one of the strongest buffs in the game, Gamble. So it can change which one you get, but if you get the God of Fury, I believe it's called, you'll get like 4% final crit chance, which is massive and incredibly useful. So this ability right here is pretty worth getting in my opinion, because it increases things by a percentage. The extra 1000 HP is good, but later in the game it's not much, but it increases the regeneration of potions by 30%, which is pretty helpful. And we also get a pretty good self buff. The power by 50 is not that good, but the final physical attack is solid. And same with this right here. It increases total value of attack by a percentage. So you can put skill points into this. But with this one over here, I wouldn't really recommend it, because it's just by a base amount. But you do need to... Actually, I don't know why I even put 3 points into this. Don't do that. Only do the minimum that you need. This ability you can max out if you like. 2500 HP is pretty decent, but in the later game, as I've said before, it's just not that good. So you can also just save skill points for your strong abilities instead. Gladiator is one of my favorite classes, but your only real damaging abilities until you're a Myrmidon is your bears. One you throw down to just kick a guy, and the other one will knock an enemy into the air, and you can use your Stormblade ability. I actually don't know why I didn't max out my Stormblade. It's definitely worth doing for the attack enemy maximum. Alrighty, so as a Myrmidon, you get some solid abilities here. They're not all like the best, like Magnum Break is kind of cool. So is Deathbound and Whirlwind, but they're not like super great. Your best ability is going to be Gust Slash. You can use Deathbound as a launch attack, but Wyvern Blade is the king right here. And once it gets to level 2 or 3, you can move around freely, which makes it a lot of fun to play around with. So like I'll go into a pack down here. That was a bad example, but you can knock them into the air. You can pick them up from anywhere and then use Stormblade to launch them even further. It's basically 2 tornadoes. And we also get to throw out a wrestler, kind of like what the thief classes get with their doll and the log. This deals pretty high damage and it's good against stationary targets. And as an Overlord, you get access to your ultimate. It's okay. It looks cool, but it doesn't actually do a lot of damage. And then we have our 2 abilities right here. Demolition's okay, but it only really does damage once. And then Death Stinger is definitely worth it in my opinion. It deals a lot of damage and it moves you in a line. But the foundation of your abilities is pretty much just your bears, Gust Slash, Deathbound is solid. You can also knock enemies into the air with your Dashing Blow. You can get used to playing with that, it's pretty decent. And your tornadoes are pretty much your best abilities. So we are going to go on over to Paladin now. Alright, so we got our Paladin right here. This is a very slow class, just be aware of that. This class is mainly for PvP, but unfortunately not a lot of people in this server actually PvP. So, yeah, it's a very slow to level class. Like I have a plus 15 weapon, so that's why I deal decent damage. This class definitely needs the enchantment on your weapon to make it actually somewhat fun. Although I still think that the abilities are fun, and it's pretty mobile class as well. So as a warrior, I like to get Sword Dance for a Paladin, because this is a good PvP ability. You can use it to catch other players. As a knight, I don't really know why I have this maxed out. It's not that good of a thing to do. I haven't played this guy in a couple years, so I probably just maxed it out of boredom or something. Increase max HP by 24%, which is a good ability. This class gets very high HP. Parry is different than what it used to be. I don't even really think I can recommend this anymore, but this isn't really about that. So Aerial Smackdown's a pretty good ability. Once you get used to how it works, it's kind of like an additional cut down almost. I only really like to get it to level 1 or 2 because I don't want enemies to get launched up too high, because your tornadoes won't always hit them then. You get to use Shoulder Tackle. You also get to throw out a weight, which can raise enemies up. But the main abilities you get as a knight is Spear Jab and Spin It Bear. I'm going to show you on monsters better than this. Okay, so the Spin It Bear will just knock enemies up into the air. And then you can use your Tornado to deal some pretty good damage, and your Spear Jab. You just attack 5 times against a pack of mobs, and it does good damage. So as a Paladin, this used to be a really good ability, but it's not anymore. You used to let ninjas be able to just completely spam their daggers infinitely to take out single targets really quickly, but it doesn't work anymore. which is actually kind of dumb in my opinion. This was one of the main reasons to even bring a paladin along in PvE, and it's kind of pointless now, unfortunately. We still get our other blessings, which can help out in certain areas, but I don't think this is a very, very good class anymore. It has its fun abilities, and it's definitely good for PvP, though. So we get a Mega Stormblade, which looks pretty cool and does good damage. This class is all about launching. It's horrible against bosses, by the way. So we can throw out our chains, knock an enemy up, and they'll just kind of do their thing. We can use our tornadoes to an enemy who's in the pack right there. Yeah, so this is basically a launching class. This is my favorite ability, Crosscut. It deals massive damage twice, and it has very long range. This is very much a PvP class. As a Dragoon, you'll also get Rolling Ground, which is a very powerful attack, which is kind of your boss killing ability, and still good against packs of mobs as well. And you get your ultimate, which is alright, and you get your abilities right here. This class is pretty slow. It does very well. It's actually kind of like somewhat quick pace, but in PvE it's very slow. So unless you want to be a PvPer, I wouldn't really play this class. You may have a hard time finding people to actually PvP with you though. So we are gonna, before level 85. At 85 you can get decent PvP matches. We are gonna go on over to the archer classes now. Alright, so we are on the marksman, the specialist, the destroyer. This class gets a lot of flack nowadays because of the X attack resist. People really don't like this class, even though it's still very viable. As an archer, you pretty much always want Rising Arrow 1, Anti-Air Shot 5, Shoot Down 3, max your Rapid Step, and get Archer's Quickness. Everything else you can pretty much ignore. If you were to pick up multi-shot on either of the classes, this would probably be the class to do it on, but I still just kind of say leave that. If you find yourself bored and you have no buttons to press constantly, then you can pick up multi-shot to have an extra button. So as a marksman, you get Random Shot. This is pretty much the best out of all of them. It lets you sort of have an ability like the monk. So you do double X attack, really. This is an X attack class, kinda. But the problem that people have with this class is this X attack resistant mob here. We can't X attack it, we can't shoot it down. We can anti-air shot it though, which is good. And we can also use our rocket on it, which is good. But just be aware that it is going to be a little bit slower than the other hunter class, most likely. We also get access to our machine gun. It has a high cooldown though. We get our grenade as well, which deals decent damage. It has a somewhat short cooldown, but it doesn't really do too much for launching or anything. So you do have high cooldowns, so you may have to get kind of patient. So you can use all your cooldowns. If everything is on cooldown, you're gonna have to wait at least 2 to 4 seconds. So you can find yourself just sitting here waiting for your cooldown before you can actually do anything with the X attack resistant monsters. And it can also feel kind of annoying when you shoot down and then you have this one guy and then you have to deal with him. So there is that to be aware of, but I don't personally think it's that big of a deal. You also get your tank right here, which has a very long cooldown. But it can do some good stuff, and it's still fun to play with. As a specialist, you get sniping that deals very high damage. It has a really long cooldown though. It gets better as you level it up. The Vulcan 3000 is kind of going to be like your auto shot system. It sort of shoots in a straight line, sort of like the hot pepper thing that the Warlock gets. Then also Carpet Bombing is a pretty solid ability. It deals some good damage against a lot of enemies. You also get Camouflage, which can kind of act like a hide. As a destroyer, you get the Self Bomber ability. This one's fun. You kind of jump up into the air. You go down into the right as a bomber. you kind of blow up and you deal some high damage. I'm pretty sure it launches enemies as well. You get your ultimate ability. This is a pretty good ultimate, actually. It deals good damage. You get your particle cannon, which will do high damage in a line. I think it launches monsters too. And nuclear, I can't remember this ability, so sorry about that. But overall, this class is still very viable, even though people like to hate on it. This homing missile ability, you can use it to raise enemies that are in the air if you don't want them to fall. It takes some getting used to play around with though, so just be aware of that. Alrighty, so we're going to go on over to the Sentinel now, which is the more popular archer. Alright, so we're on our Sentinel. As an archer, same thing. 5 your anti-air shot, your shoot down, rapid step. Just get 1 in Rising Arrow, that's good enough. As a destroyer, you could probably get Rising Arrow to level 5 if you have a hard time with your abilities, but I don't think it's necessary. Alright, so Arrow Shower is an alright ability. This is really good for getting your combo up without actually defeating any monsters. This ability is okay. I just get it to 1 because after that it only gives you an extra 1%, so I don't really mess around with it. Rocket Launch is okay, but once you get to Pathfinder you don't really need it. This is a pretty good buff right here. But pretty much at the super late game it's not going to be super necessary really. You get a Wolf Rush ability, which will deal damage to a monster, bring them up into the air, and then you use your anti-air shot to deal with them. I find as a Sentinel I actually use Rising Arrow quite a bit, but as soon as you get to Pathfinder you have tons and tons of abilities. Tesla Coil is a good trap. It just deals damage like this. I don't really use the other traps, honestly. This right here is a decent ability to pick up because of this, the Weakness Detention. It gives you final crit and crit damage. The final crit is worth it in itself. So we also got our Eagles right here, which will deal some good damage and knock monsters into the air. You can anti-air shot, use shoot down, anti-air shot. You can use your other bird. These aren't a good example because they don't launch, but okay, well that's a really bad example. But after that, you could have used your Wolf Rush to bring them up. You can keep shooting down. You can use your Tesla Coil to deal with X attack resistant monsters. Sentinel, I really like their ultimate ability. It's pretty solid. And their Ice Shower ability is pretty good as well. It just deals high damage, like so. And this ability, I can't really remember it very well. So that is pretty much it. That's an overview of all the classes. So what do I personally think the best class to begin the game with is? The absolute easiest class to have as your first job is going to be an archer. No doubt, they're the easiest class to go through on your first try. They're going to be the quickest, and you're also playing from a range, so you can avoid abilities faster. This game has a lot of lag that'll probably never get fixed, unfortunately, even with a solid PC. I have a 1050 graphics card, and I still get lag occasionally, and I still crash occasionally. And when I've played this game with worse computers, the crashing was a lot more consistent. I would say that the crashing is better than it used to be, but it's still not perfect. So I recommend you play as an archer for your first class, just because of shoot down and anti-air shot. The X attack resistant mobs aren't too bad, because you can just rising arrow them and anti-air shot them. And on the bosses it's super easy. It's a total breeze because you can just go shoot down on them. It saves you a lot of time. This is definitely the fastest class to get from 1 to 20. And as for which path to go, do you want to go Hunter or Destroyer? I'll leave that up to you. But even though people give Destroyer a bad rep, it's not that bad. And it's actually pretty fun, even with the long cooldowns. But you still have abilities and ways to play around it. So even if you're playing it. I actually saw somebody give someone a hard time for playing a destroyer, which was kind of silly because it's a completely viable class still, and it's still pretty strong even with the X attack resist. So none of these human classes are actually useless or have been made bad completely because of X attack resist. It's just changed the gameplay of all of them a little bit. If you don't want to play Archer, what's the second best class to pick up? I would say Warrior. Warrior is also pretty quick to level, and I really enjoy the Gladiators gameplay. I think they're fun. I honestly like every single one of the classes. Unless you really want to play a mage, I gotta say, you're going to have a very hard time playing a mage from 1 to 20 as your very first character. They are very slow to level and they deal very little damage. If you want to play a mage for your first go around, maybe try and play with a friend to make it so you aren't spending literally 15 minutes defeating a boss, because that's actually what the gameplay is like until your job changed, unfortunately. But you can still play anything that you want, but I would say Archer's the easiest, Warrior's second easiest, Thief is third, and then Mage is fourth for easiness factor. So I think that the easiest class is Archer and the hardest one is Mage, but they're still all viable. That's all I wanted to say. So hopefully this guide helped you. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope you have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.